Hello and welcome to another edition of Rex, the adequate would-be chef. It's been a bit of a hiatus since I've done this, but I have a New Year's resolution to put out more videos. I have all the equipment, I have all the knowledge necessary. I just need to find the desire to get down here, make these videos, edit them, and get them out to you. So I'm going to make an active effort to do this. It is December 25th, and we are about to make a creamed Brussels sprouts. I'm making basically a prime rib, mashed potatoes, and I wanted a nice side dish, and creamed Brussels sprouts makes a wonderful addition to this. The Brussels sprout is something that as a kid I was very fearful of. It looked like a little cabbage. I didn't like cabbage. As I've grown older, I found these little suckers can be quite tasty. Now, you can actually buy these in the store much fresher if you have a good local market that's on a big sort of like big, what does it look like? Like a big green banana, and you cut each one off. I actually bought these in bulk at Costco, and we're gonna go ahead and wash these. We're gonna trim the ends, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do from there. So, hold on to your wine glasses, let's get cooking. Okay, let's get down to some ingredients. Now, this is a pretty simple recipe. We're going to have Brussels sprouts, salt and pepper, butter, and whipping cream. And this is really a two-part recipe. What we're going to do is we're going to blanch these, which is basically do just a little quick boil on them, get them good and softened. And then once we do that, we will take them and then we're going to chop them. We're going to put them in the cream and we're going to let them cook and just soak in all that cream, salt, and pepper. Make some delicious goodness. But let me show you quickly how I just want to trim these up. Okay, as you can see, when you first get these things, they have, if they've been cut, they're going to get a little brown there on the end. You're just going to want to cut that off. So, trim that like that. And any leaf that wants to come off or is discolored, you're going to want to take that off. Then, just make a little star pattern, pierce it, and pierce it. That's going to help, see the little cross I have in the bottom of that? That's going to help with the cooking of it. Now see, notice this one, perhaps some insect marks, got a little, moldy leaf there, looks like. You can just take all that off. And you have a nice Brussels sprout, nice and firm, really good and green. Now, I've already done that to all of these. I didn't think you'd want to watch each one. What we have is about 6 to 8 quarts of water on the stove. I'm bringing that to a heavy boil. I'm going to put about 1.5 teaspoons of salt in that water. And then we're going to put in the trimmed and washed Brussels sprouts. I have about, let me say, 1.5 pounds of Brussels sprouts, which should be just about right. For the recipe that it's calling for. More than feed probably 6 to 8 people, and there's only going to be 2 of us, but go big or go home, right? So we're going to drop this in. Once you drop them in, you're going to bring it back to a boil as rapidly as possible. And at that point, generally for typical blanching, not cooking all the way, you're going to go about 6 to 8 minutes. However, this recipe calls for only 5 minutes because we're going to chop them up into smaller pieces and then continue to cook them. Okay, the water is starting to boil. So what we're going to do is, you can see that here we have it's starting to slightly boil. So I'm going to put about, I'd say that's about 2 teaspoons worth of salt. Calls for 1.5. I have a little bit more Brussels sprouts than I think I should. And that's good. Generally, you don't want to put in your cookware salt in before the water comes to a boil because it actually can pit the bottom of your pans. So always bring the water, get the water hot and simmering to boil before you place that salt in. Okay, we have a really good boil now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and drop these Brussels sprouts right on in. It will drop the temperature and you'll see that the boil will slow down to almost stop. So you just take them, roll them in, try not to splash yourself. And there you go. Notice that the boil definitely stopped as a rapid boil. It is still slightly boiling. That's why you want to have enough water that it can sort of maintain that heat and actually come back up to a boil as soon as possible. We're going to set the clock for 5 minutes and then get these things off the heat fast. Okay, the timer just went off. These are done. I'm going to pull these off of the heat and we're going to just put them back in the colander right now, and we're going to start chopping them. Now, if you're going to use them later, you can do this. You can cook them hours ahead of time, put them in the fridge, so you don't have to do this step. But what you're going to do is lay a towel on the counter, lay them all out on that towel, and space them apart. They shouldn't be touching. Let them cool down naturally. And then you can basically put them in the fridge and use them whenever you need them. So she calls for, like the steam, isn't that nice? She calls for a rough chop on these once they're cooked. And what I'm going to do is take in 3 tablespoons of butter. We're going to put this into about a 10-inch enamel skillet. I'll show it to you right here. We're going to put the butter into this enameled skillet here, and we're going to bring it to nice and bubbly. And once we have these rough chopped, we're going to throw them into the skillet. We're not trying to brown them. We are trying to evaporate as much moisture off of them as possible. Okay, as you can see, they're nice and green, nice colors. Now, rough chop, I'm not doing all of them, so we're just going to go through here with a nice sharp knife and just do some rough chopping on these things. I'm not looking for perfection in here. I just want to get them slightly chopped up into some quarters, whatever. I'm not doing all of them at once because that would just be a total mess. But that's about it right there. You don't want to do much. Let's get to putting the butter into the pan. Put the butter in the pan. Sounds like a gospel song. You gotta put the butter in the pan. You're gonna get it all bubbly and brown. Once it's ready, you're gonna put the Brussels sprouts down. Yeah. There's a reason why I'm not a professional singer. Okay. We have chopped Brussels sprouts here. Like I said, we are not trying to brown these Brussels sprouts. We are trying to evaporate moisture. So what does she say here? Let's see here. Heat the butter bubbling in the skillet. Add the chopped Brussels sprouts and season with salt and pepper. Shake them over moderately high heat for several minutes and evaporate the moisture, but do not brown. At that point, once we get the moisture down, we're going to pour in. I got about a cup of cream because I have more Brussels sprouts than the recipe calls for. She calls for 3/4 of a cup of whipping cream. Anyways, we're going to throw this in, and let's see, and then we're going to watch, and hopefully this is just going to absorb up all this cream right before our eyes. Oh yeah, there's butter here. We're going to go ahead and let that go ahead and settle. We'll get the bubbles out of it. You got to be careful that you don't want to burn your butter. At this point, just several minutes, we're just going to dry these little suckers out. At this point in time, you should add in your salt. She calls for half a teaspoon. Since I'm using a kosher salt, I'm going to I generally put in a little bit more. Now, she just says several minutes. What several minutes is, I'm not quite sure. We've almost gone 4 minutes. I do hear sort of a crackling, if you listen. I think that's just the water coming out. So I'm going to go a little bit longer, and then we'll drop the cream in. I just noticed something. I was talking about the crackling earlier in the recipe. She says to shake the pan vigorously. As you shake it, that crackling intenses. I'm assuming, like, you know, each little Brussels sprout is sort of like a cabbage leaf, and it's going to hold water in those leaves. So by shaking it, you're going to get a little bit more water out. Okay, it's starting just to brown a little on the bottom, so I think we're good to go. I'm about 8 minutes in. Let's go ahead and pour in the cream before we burn something here. Now we're going to bring that up to a simmer. Now that we've got the cream in, we've got it simmering, it's on low. We're going to go ahead and cover it. And we're just going to let it simmer for 8 to 10 minutes covered to soak up all that cream. At that point, I'm going to put in a little bit more of salt and pepper to season this thing. And really, we're done. Nice, simple, easy, delicious recipe. See you in a second. Okay, it's been 8 minutes, so let's go ahead and take a peek at here. Let's see, a lot of the cream has actually been absorbed into the Brussels. There's not much left. At this point, what we want to do is just correct our seasonings. So just a touch more salt and definitely some more pepper. Now, I obviously don't have a full plate here, but because I'm obviously going to eat this with Christmas dinner. But you can see nice large chunks. I have put some parsley on top of this, along with some other stuff. It is nice and creamy. The cream's not really running away from it. So let's see how this tastes. My favorite part, the eating. It's amazing. A simple dish. It's got a lot of complex flavors to it. It's very rich. It's going to be delicious with that prime rib. I am so excited. You try this dish. It's quick. It's easy. Your kids are going to love it. Everybody's going to love it. Don't tell them it's Brussels sprouts. All right, I'm Rex, the Adequate Chef, with my sous chef Bullseye, giving you another episode of creamed Brussels sprouts. Thank you for watching. Come back next time.